Hi there, boys and girls.
Greetings from Uncle Dan and me and every member of Your Story Our Cast.
Today I have a Bible story to tell, a very, very unusual one, about a man who is seldom mentioned, yet he wrote one of the Gospels.
Matthew?
No, Aunt Sue. Mark. John Mark.
John Mark? Is his first name John?
Well, in the book of Acts, he is mentioned several times as John, whose surname is Mark. But for the sake of clarity, we'll simply call him Mark all the way through this story. The book of Acts makes reference to John Mark in chapters 12, 13, and 15.
And what's the title of this story, Uncle Dan?
Well, it's about one of the big mistakes Mark made, so I'll call the story
The Man Who Turned Back. After 3 days in the tomb, Jesus arose and for a time walked with his disciples, teaching them that they should tell the story of his crucifixion and resurrection to all the world. Then he ascended to his Father in heaven. When the disciples began to preach a risen Savior, they were sorely persecuted. Wicked men who were determined to stop this new religion of Christ beat the disciples, imprisoned them, even put them to death. The disciples were always in danger. John Mark, with his mother Mary, lived in a home hidden behind a high wall, well off the beaten path in Jerusalem. Mark gave the use of his home to the harassed disciples. There they could eat, sleep, study, and pray in comfortable surroundings, fairly safe from the persecution of the wicked enemies of Jesus. Even so, they were constantly in danger and had to keep the gate and the wall carefully closed and locked. Even Mark had to use a secret signal when he entered his home.
Who is it?
It's me, Rhoda. Mark, please open the gate for me.
Master Mark. Oh, your mother will be glad you're safely home.
Yes, I'm safe, but I have bad news.
Again? Oh, the last was so terrible,
Yes.
Master.
I know. The Master was slain on Calvary.
A disciple this time?
No, Rhoda, the news isn't quite that bad.
But they will kill a disciple. They will. You just wait and see.
You mustn't say such things, even think them, Rhoda.
But it's true, Master Mark. It's true. They will. I know they will.
Mark?
Your mother.
Yes. Yes, Mother, it's me.
Come in.
I was just finishing prayer, son. I'm so glad you're home. Come in, both of you. Sit down.
I have news, Mother, of the gravest...
They've caught one of the disciples.
Peter, Mother.
How terrible.
Yes, they have him in prison. They're going to hold him until the feast is over.
And what then?
The usual.
Oh, no.
King Herod plans to make this one a public spectacle. The people will watch Peter die.
Peter must not die. His work is only started. Mark, quick, go get the others. We will have a special prayer for Peter.
But, Mother, he's in a locked cell. 16 guards take turns watching him night and day. He's even chained to 2 of them. There's nothing we can do.
Remember, son, the other time, when Peter and John were in prison, how the Lord set them free?
I remember, mistress. An angel came and opened the gate and led them out of the prison.
Yes. Well, all right, Mother. I'll go ask the others to come here for special prayer.
Many of the disciples and members of the church answered Mark's summons and appeared alone, in twos or in groups, to pray for Peter. While Mark and his mother joined in the praying, Rhoda stood watch at the gate to make sure no uninvited guests made their way into this inner circle of believers.
I wonder who that can be. It's a secret knock. Must be one of the disciples, but the disciples are all here. Who is it?
Peter,
Peter. Who?
it is I, Peter.
Oh, it is Peter. I'll run tell the others. Oh, Peter, they'll be so happy. He's here. Peter, he's here. He's here.
Rhoda, hush. You're disturbing the meeting.
But he's here, I tell you.
Who's here?
Peter.
Come, Rhoda, explain what you're talking about.
It's Peter. He's at the gate, knocking to be let in.
Rhoda.
Why didn't you let him in?
Could it be that they've killed him already?
No, I heard his voice. Come and see for yourself.
We'll all go.
Yes, hurry.
It is Peter, I tell you.
Please open and let me in. Please, it's Peter.
It is
Please
Peter.
let me in.
It is Peter. That's his voice.
Quick, open the gate.
Yes, Rhoda.
Hurry.
Oh,
Peter.
Peter.
Friends.
How happy we
How
are
did you
to
get out of
see
prison, Peter?
An angel of the Lord came into the prison, and the chains fell from my hands. The angel led me out of the prison, through the city gates, and here I am. Peter was often at Mark's home after that. The spreading of the message of a risen Savior progressed slowly. There came a day when the disciples were instructed to carry the story of Jesus to people outside of Jerusalem, to people in faraway lands. John Mark longed to be one of those chosen to go to those faraway places, to tell the people there about the wonderful Jesus. But such was not his lot. In time, a famine came upon the land. The people of Jerusalem were hungry. Mark and his mother Mary were no exceptions. Their table, usually heaped with food, is now lean and empty. Mary was often hungry. The servants were hungry too. Young Mark's head was so full of dreams of being a missionary that he seemed to scarcely notice the famine.
Mark,
Oh, yes, Mother.
dreaming again, son?
I'm trying to decide where I want to go. There are so many exciting places.
Samaria, perhaps?
Samaria. I could work with Peter, John, and Philip.
Your Uncle Barnabas and Paul are up in Syria, aren't they?
Yes, Mother. Oh, that's for me, the far countries.
It sounds wonderful, Mark. But before you go, think of all
Yes,
the...
think of the people I'll meet and the languages I'll use. The apostles will need my education.
I was going to say, think of the hardships, Mark. Are you sure you want to climb mountains and wade rivers and fight off robbers?
I'm used to dangers, Mother. Why, it was right here in Jerusalem that James lost his life. With the famine and all, I doubt if Uncle Barnabas and Paul have it any harder than we do.
Perhaps you're right, son. Perhaps they're worried about us. There's a flood in Antioch, I hear.
Ah, Antioch. How I'd love to see that city. Mother, do you think Uncle Barnabas and Paul would let me join them at Antioch?
I don't see why they...
You have visitors, mistress. They're in the other room.
Mary.
Barnabas!
Uncle Barnabas! Oh, I was just talking about you. Are we glad to see you? Where's Paul? Didn't he come with you?
Oh, yes, but he thought I should greet you first. He's waiting at the gate.
Well, go get him. Bring him in.
Uncle Barnabas, what brings you and Paul home from Antioch?
Well, we thought you'd be glad to see us.
And the things we brought with us.
Brought with you?
Yes, come to the window and look outside.
Donkeys! Just look at them all. And loaded.
Yes, my sister, loaded with food.
But how did you know we were hungry?
Another miracle, Mark. One of the brethren named Agabus had a vision during a meeting. Saw the condition here.
Immediately we made plans to save food and bring it to the brethren here in Jerusalem.
How good is the Lord. You must be hungry, traveling so long. I'll have your dinner prepared.
And I'll go see to the donkeys.
Well, Mark, it's been a long time since we've had a chance to talk together.
Uncle Barnabas, that is, well, it must be rather hard traveling with a man such as Paul, who used to be an enemy of believers.
Oh, but Paul's one of us now, a true disciple.
Yes, I know, Uncle Barnabas, but still, you should have someone else with you, someone in the family.
Oh, I see what you're after now.
I lie awake nights wishing, praying that I can go to the far lands and give the news of a risen Savior to the unbelievers. Will you take me with you, Uncle Barnabas? Will you?
Well, Mark, I'm not a one to make quick decisions. I'll talk to Paul about it and see what he...
Talk to me about what, Barnabas?
My nephew here wants to go with us, Paul.
Oh, that's a worthy desire. But right now, I want to know what to do with the packs off the donkey.
Please, Paul, take me with you. I know languages. I could be an interpreter. I know geography. I'd do anything you ask.
Well, you and your mother have long been ministers to the brethren here in Jerusalem. You might be fine help to us on our trips.
You'd have to learn to pitch a tent, to fish, cook in the open.
I would, Uncle Barnabas. I'd work hard to be a real help to you.
All right, Mark. It's agreed. But I warn you, there are rough days ahead. All sorts of hardships and danger.
Mark listened attentively as Barnabas and Paul recounted the tales of cold, hunger, and danger they had encountered. He could hardly wait for the time he, too, would be a part of it all. At last, the day came when Mark kissed his mother goodbye, and, as the scriptures say, Barnabas and Paul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministry, and took with them John, whose surname was Mark. Antioch. Such a long way to go. For Mark, there was so much to learn. How to scale a slippery fish, remove stones from a stubborn donkey's hoof, splice a rope, stake out a tent with skill and speed.
So much to learn. I don't think I'll ever learn it all.
But patiently, Barnabas and Paul taught Mark, and learn he did. Antioch was a great and lively city of Syria. The believers there were forever rushing about. For Barnabas and Paul, there was more to do than 10 men could do, and Mark was their helper. These were long and weary days for Mark, who had never before been away from his mother's comfortable home. Then, as the members of the church at Antioch were fasting and praying, a voice spoke.
Separate me, Barnabas and Paul, for the work whereunto I have called them.
Mark was not even mentioned by this voice from heaven. But, of course, he would go with them, for he was their minister and helper. As they sailed for the island of Cyprus, which had once been the home of Barnabas, He talked to Mark of his native land.
Oh, it'll seem good to see my island again, nephew.
Yes, Uncle. Cyprus is your home.
It was home. Before I sold my land and became a missionary.
It must be a lost feeling not to have a home.
Heaven is the missionary's home. Oh, I'm homesick for heaven.
So am I. But while my mother lives, I'm homesick for Jerusalem.
Oh, I suppose you do miss your mother.
How much longer before we'll be getting home, Uncle Barnabas?
Oh, better stop thinking about it, Mark. And talking, too. Others might think this homesickness of yours is a weakness.
Catch hold of that rope, Mark. We'll swing this mast around.
I can't, Paul. My hands.
Your hands? Let's see them. Oh, blistered and raw.
It was the storm. I worked all night with the ropes.
Your hands aren't yet toughened to this kind of work. But in time, they will be like mine. Better go to the galley and pour oil on them.
I will, Paul.
From Cyprus, the three took a long sea voyage and came to Perga. They made camp outside the city, where Barnabas is now talking to his nephew, Mark.
Well, nephew, we're a long way from home. You've met strange people, seen strange lands. You're a true missionary.
Uncle Barnabas, after we finish here in Perga, are we going home?
Why, Mark, are you homesick?
I'm sick of eating fish, fighting insects, hiding from robbers, and trying to duck stones.
Oh, now you're looking on the wrong side of things. Think of all the souls we've saved.
Are we going home after Perga?
Well, I don't know. It depends on Paul.
Paul? Why does it depend on him? I thought you were the leader of this journey.
Paul is a powerful missionary. God is with him and is using him mightily. And we, you and I, should help him all we can.
I haven't been much help to anyone.
Oh, yes, you have. Oh, true, we've run into difficulties, opposition.
Difficulties? We've nearly been drowned at sea. Robbers have stolen our supplies. Men have tried to murder us. Surely the Lord doesn't expect us to take any more chances. I'm going home.
The Lord said, take this message to all the world. And we must do it, Mark.
Later, when the work in Perga was finished,
Tomorrow we leave for Antioch in Pisidia.
Pisidia? Only crazy people would undertake a journey through that land. Robbers swarm over those mountains. They beat travelers, steal their supplies, and leave them to die.
It is a dangerous journey, but the people of Antioch must hear the gospel.
We are 3 strong. We'll make it, all right?
Not strong enough for that country. No, thanks, not me.
We've taught you the ways of wild life, to face danger.
I'm not going with you.
Not going, Mark. Oh, you can't mean that.
There's a boat sailing for Jerusalem in the morning. I'll be on it.
Just when we need you more than ever.
You don't need me.
Oh, it'd be much harder for us without you, Mark.
I'm going back home.
But, Mark, you can't do this. You would be...
I think I know how he feels, Barnabas. Let him go back. A man who doubts and mistrusts. One who has lost faith and courage. We don't need such a man.
the voyage to Jerusalem was long and lonesome for Mark. He had plenty of time for thought, meditation, and regrets. He thought of his uncle and Paul, braving the Pisidian mountains alone. He thought of the treacherous rivers and swarms of robbers. He meditated upon the dangers they would encounter, even in the cities, where they would be ridiculed and stoned. And he regretted that he would not be there to help. He remembered all the things Uncle Barnabas and Paul had in patience taught him. He hung his head in shame to think that he had repaid all that by distrust and desertion. His shame and regret still weighed heavily upon him as he arrived in Jerusalem and, finally, stood alone before the gate of his own home. He had only to knock the secret signal, and Rhoda would come running to let him in. His arms froze at his side. He couldn't lift his hand. He couldn't knock at his own gate.
What have I done? I've run away from my duty like a child. A silly child. I've come home crying back to my mother. face them. I can't. Yes, I have to admit it. I am a coward. I'm just plain scared. How can I get over it? What can I do now to atone for...
Master Mark, you're home.
Yes. Yes, Rhoda. I've come home.
For months, Mark worried about his Uncle Barnabas and Paul. In those grief-stricken and self-censoring months, Mark learned that sleepless nights and mental anguish are much harder to endure than storms at sea, wild rivers, and mountain robbers. More and more he longed to go back and prove to his uncle and Paul that he was worthy to be a minister and a missionary. Finally, his desire materialized. He journeyed to Antioch and joined his Uncle Barnabas and Paul. There came a day when the work in Antioch was finished, and Paul and Barnabas planned to move on to new fields of endeavor.
Perhaps it would be well to visit the brethren in every city we've preached.
Oh, fine idea. When shall we start?
Immediately. As soon as we can buy the necessary supplies.
We'll take Mark with us. Just the other day.
No.
No? What do you mean?
We're not taking Mark. He might leave us again, just when we need him the most.
Oh, he's a new man, Paul. He's changed.
Yeah, this will be a long and hard journey. Only strong men could endure it.
Well, I'm convinced that Mark has become strong.
He's proved himself weak.
Well, how will he ever prove himself strong if we don't give him a chance?
No. We will not take Mark with us.
Paul, you are a worthy leader, but I will not submit all my thinking to your judgment.
I've no intention of doing your thinking for you. But I will not go with someone who'll be begging us to turn back when we should go forward. I have to think of the souls we labor for, and not some weak city man who can't be away from his mother.
All right, then. Go without me.
Without you?
If you won't forgive my nephew for a moment of weakness, you don't need me either. Get someone else to go with you.
But Barnabas, the work is more important than the individual. Surely you and I can find
Maybe Silas will go with you.
All right. I'll take Silas with me. He won't turn back.
Acts 15, verse 39 reads, "And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder one from another." Barnabas took Mark, and they sailed for Cyprus.
Never shall I forget, Uncle Barnabas, that you've given me this new chance to prove my worth.
Well, all of us at times need a new chance.
And I don't blame Paul for not wanting to take me with him.
You've forgiven Paul completely?
Completely.
And why is it easier to forgive him now?
Because I've made my own mistakes. I know how wretched a man can feel when he's done a great wrong.
Someday Paul will forgive and forget your mistake.
I hope so. I shall live for Paul's forgiveness and respect.
The years pass. With eagerness, Mark followed the career of Paul, the man whose respect he had lost. As reports continued to come to Mark of Paul's courage and integrity through all kinds of suffering, Mark's love and admiration grew. He longed to be with Paul just once more. Finally, news came to Mark that Paul was held in prison in Rome. This was his chance. He hastened to Rome, to the prison, to Paul. By the time Mark got there, Paul had been in prison and chains for 4 long years. He was changed from the young man of strength to one of old age, weak, weary, and sick.
Mark, you've come to see me?
Yes, Brother Paul.
Oh, I give thanks to God. Come near to me, Mark.
Brother Paul, I can't bear the sight of your chains.
Be cheerful, my friend. I rejoice in persecutions for the sake of my master and his work.
Your courage, Paul, wonderful, strong as ever.
I long to see you, Mark. I've heard such good reports that you've become a true minister of the gospel. Where will you be preaching next?
I'm staying here, Paul, while you are in chains. I'm going to stay and take care of you.
This is more kindness than I deserve. More than I gave you during your trying hour.
You made a soldier of me, Paul. A true soldier of the cross. And I'm indebted to you. Because of you, I shall never again turn back, but forge onward, forward.
The letters written from that prison refer to John Mark as a fellow laborer and as a great comfort to him. After the death of Paul, Mark again ministered to someone in prison there in Rome, Peter. It was probably here, with Peter's help, that John Mark wrote the gospel that is called Mark. The disciples of Christ, the men who held the pens that wrote God's word, were very human people with very common human faults and weaknesses. God can turn those weaknesses into strength and use them in his work, just as he changed and greatly used John Mark.
The man who turned back.
Ranger Bill, warrior of the woodland.
Ranger Bill, warrior of the woodland, struggling against extreme odds, traveling dangerous trails, fighting the many enemies of nature. This is the job of the guardian of the forest, Ranger Bill. Pouring rain, freezing cold, blistering heat, snow, floods, bears, rattlesnakes, mountain lions. Yes, all this in exchange for the satisfaction and pride of a job well done. This is a lazy day in Knotty Pine. The Rangers are strolling down one of the town's shady streets, heading toward the town's old general store. The old store is a landmark of the days when the West was wild and woolly, and it's run by Mark Daggart. Many of the townsfolk visit the store to hear the old cowhands and prospectors, desert rats as they call them, swap yarns. Now let's join Bill and the boys as they head for the store. Little do they know that they're heading for one of the most grueling experiences of their lives. Listen now for the story, Burning Sand. You know, Bill, I like to visit Mark's store. It smacks of the Old West. Sort of gives you a feeling that you're living back in those times again.
Yes, Ralph. There's a lot of history centered in Mark's old general store. You know, I get a kick out of listening to those old cowpokes and desert rats spinning their yarns, each trying to outdo the other.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of competition there.
You don't think that most of their stories are made up, do you, Bill?
No, essentially, there's a lot more truth in them than most people think. Of course, the old-timers do add a little color to their yarns.
Like somebody else we know of?
Now, see here, young feller. Don't look at me that way. I'd have you know I don't color up my yarns.
Not even a little bit, Stumpy?
Nope. I give you the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Well, maybe you just put a little tint to your tales, huh, Stumpy?
Well, maybe I should say, I guess I do sort of tint them up once in a while, just to make them interesting.
Quit picking on the old-timer, fellas. You enjoy Stumpy's yarns just as much as the rest of us.
Yeah, it looked like a big crowd in store. Many old-timers there.
Yeah, maybe we'll see some more hair-raising tales about the old Injun days.
Well, whoever has the floor, it's my guess that Stumpy will go him one better.
Now, wait a minute, Pandora.
Give him a chance, boys.
You mean to tell me that you and Johnny O'Banion took on 5 Injuns by yourself?
That's right, Stumpy, 5 of them.
Just 5? What's the matter? Were you two fellers weak that day or just plumb lazy?
Now you see here, you old cougar. That's what there was. There was just 5 redskins, and we took 'em on.
Why, it should have taken only one of you to finish 5 of 'em off. The other could have gone about his business.
Yeah, is that right? Well, I ain't seen you do any better.
You ain't? Did I ever tell you about the fracas me and Big Jim Hansen had at Hooker Pass with a gang of desperados? Why, I'm telling you, when I... Howdy, Josh.
Hey, where you been keeping yourself, Joshua? Ain't seen you for a month of Sundays.
Oh, I've been busy, Mark.
Suppose you've been looking for gold again, huh, Josh?
That's right, been prospecting. What'd you expect from an old desert rat like me?
When are you gonna give up looking for fool's gold, Josh?
I expect when they dig your grave, they'll find gold, Joshua. You got gold fever that bad? Fool's gold, eh? Gold fever, huh? Let me show you fellas something that'll make your eyes bulge. There it is, boys. You think I've been wasting my time on the desert, huh?
You haven't got gold in that sack, Josh?
I ain't, huh? What'd you call this?
Look at that.
Well, don't stand there with your mouth open, Mark Taggart. Set me up some supplies and grub. I got some more work to do. Ain't nothing to get excited about.
What do you mean, Joshua? Ain't gold findings like that something to get excited about?
Yeah.
No, it ain't. This was just a small pocket, and I cleaned it out.
Where'd you find the small pocket, Josh?
Now, that would be telling, wouldn't it? Why don't you go out and hunt your own gold like I've been doing for 30 years?
Fellows, that was a big thrill to see Joshua pour gold nuggets out uncountered. And easy to understand how men catch gold fever.
That's right, Grey Wolf. But old Joshua's been prospecting for 30 years. And this is only the 4th small find he's made. Not much reward after all, is it?
A lot of work for a little pay, if you ask me.
Almost like work for nothing.
Yep. That ain't the worst part of it, young feller. When you think of a desert rat's being on the hot sand and in the cold mountains, year in and year out, all by himself. Never gets to see people, lives like a hermit. Just him and his burro, why, it's awful.
Skin get like old horsehide from sun and wind. Get frostbite in cold winter. Not much satisfaction, I think.
You fellas forget that these desert rats wouldn't have it any other way. And if that's the way Joshua wants to live, that's his business. The only thing is, I think he's flirting with real danger if he keeps going out there in the desert now.
What do you mean? Is it any more dangerous now than it was before, Bill?
For him it is. Joshua's getting to be an old man now. The heat of the desert is hard enough for a young man to take at this time of the year. Say nothing about a man of 70. Josh better be careful.
Well, these kind always die with their boots on. And there's not much you can do about it. What's on the docket for tomorrow?
Hard work. That's all I can tell you now. Rest well tonight. We hit the trail for 3 weeks in the morning.
Where are we heading first, Bill?
Up the Long Ridge Trail, Ralph. We got some scrub to clean out of a virgin stand of pine. Then we head for the North Forks and repair the soil conservation dams there.
Somebody on the road ahead. Say, it looked like old Joshua Whip.
Hey, it not only looks like old Josh, it is him. He must be going back into the desert.
Let's stop and talk with him for a minute. Whoa, Storm. Hello, Joshua.
Howdy, Bill. Howdy, fellas.
Howdy, Josh.
Heading out into the desert again, Josh?
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Why, you not take it easy for a while, Joshua?
No, I can't do that, Grey Wolf. I get the itch if I set a spell. Got to keep going.
It wouldn't hurt you any to set a spell, you old desert rat. Someday you're going to overdo it. You'll set permanent, 6 feet under.
Never you mind, Stumpy Jenkins. I'm old enough to take care of myself.
I'm sure you are, Josh, but Stumpy's right just the same. It's awfully hot out there in the desert. You're not a young man anymore. You could at least stay in town until the summer's over.
Are you fellas are trying to keep me from finding gold? Why don't you mind your own business? I can take care of myself. Now get.
I didn't mean to offend you, Josh. I only wanted to remind you that it's dangerous. It's 120 degrees out there at this time of the year.
I don't need your advice, I tell you.
All right. So long, Josh. Let's go, boys. Come on, Storm. Grey Wolf, we'll have to cut down this tree. It's too far gone. The disease may spread.
Ah, good.
You cut the fall guide, will you? I'll lie down on the underside and cut away the trunk.
Okay, Bill. This tree not too big. Not take long.
Say, Ralph, this is a two-man saw.
Yeah, that's right, Stumpy. Why don't you pull on your end?
I would. Only you're riding the saw.
Yes, but my feet aren't dragging like yours, old-timer.
Okay, Sonny. I guess you're on the ball today. I thought I could get one up on you.
Not today, Stumpy.
Every time some fellow bends elbow, his mouth fall open.
Yeah, and the proof of it is that we're almost through our log. They're only halfway.
Is that so? What do you say we race them, Stumpy? Let's see who gets through first.
Okay, Sonny. Let's pour a little elbow grease in this here saw and let her rip.
Our job is to trap some of these trout and put tags on them.
You study their traveling habits, Bill?
Right. Ralph, would you like to set out those water traps?
Sure, I'll have them in there in a jiffy, Bill.
And Grey Wolf, you take motion pictures of the schools of trout swimming by.
Me do.
What's that for, youngster?
Well, the idea is later we can set the projector on slow motion and count the number of trout that have passed the camera in a given length of time.
That give us idea how many fish in river to spawn and go back downstream.
Yes. You see, we'll count that number that pass in a 15-minute period, multiply by 4 to get an hourly figure, then a day, then a week, and so forth. Only approximate, of course, but the figure comes out amazingly close.
Well, they've sure come a long way since I first started working for Uncle Sam.
Town seems kind of crowded after being on the trail 3 weeks, doesn't it, Bill?
Sure does, Ralph. Say, I wonder if Joshua Webb came back. He'd been gone 3 weeks. Didn't have more than 2.5 weeks' supplies with him when he left.
I hope old-timer make grade.
Say, Mark's store's just down the road a piece. Let's stop by and see.
No, Bill, I ain't seen Joshua, which ain't no surprise to me. That guy's got gold fever so bad he don't have sense enough to come in out of the heat.
Do you think he could stretch his supplies this long, Mark? It's 3 weeks now.
Maybe he'd short ration himself. Make the supplies last that much longer. That's so.
It's possible that he could stretch his food and water a whole week longer that way, Bill.
Yep. Old Josh could squeeze water out of a stone if he put his mind to it.
All right, I'll buy that for 2 days, fellas, but if Joshua doesn't show up in that time, we're going out on the desert and look for him.
Say, Bill, look hard for Joshua Webb, will you? As much fun as I poke at him, I still like the old desert rat. And I hope you find him in time.
Oh, Storm, easy, boy, easy. Now, we'll find him, Mark. I hope we're not too late, though. We'll let you know as soon as we can what's happened. All right, Storm boy, let's go. Come on, boy. Don't let the pack horses drag, Ralph. Keep them stepping along.
Okay, Bill. I'll keep moving.
Where do you figure to look first for Josh, Bill?
We'll follow his trail going out in the desert and watch for a back trail.
Must be out on desert soon. It's plenty hot there now.
Burning sand, Grey Wolf. Miles and miles of nothing else but.
Hit plenty hard on man and animal.
Oh, we better slow down once we get out in the sand. The horses couldn't take this pace in that heat.
Hey, fellas, look.
Yeah?
Over by that bunch of scrub. There's something laying on the ground.
Great Scott! There's a burro standing there, too.
Come on.
Well, looks like the gold fever finally got the old fella.
Hello, Storm.
Whoa there, Matilda.
Yeah, Josh, all right. He's still alive. We'll try to revive him as much as we can, then get him to the hospital. How's our prospecting friend coming along, Doc?
Well, if you're talking about this old desert rat, Bill, he's doing fine. A week of rest, he'll be up and around. But he shouldn't go back out on the desert again for a long while. Well, you talk with him a while. I've got to finish making my rounds. I'll see you later, fellas.
So long, Doc.
Imagine him telling me I can't go back out in the desert for a long time. No man is going to tell me what to do.
Why, you old buzzard, it would do you good to listen to some sound advice once in your life. You're too cantankerous.
Remember, Josh, you're not a spring chicken anymore.
You flirt with death if you go back there now.
Ain't you going to give me a piece of your mind, too, Bill?
I was just getting ready to, Joshua.
I'll go ahead.
I agree with my rangers and the doctor. You'd be endangering your own life if you went out in the desert again. But there's more to it than that.
What do you mean?
I mean, you ought to start enjoying life a little. Mix in with people more.
No, I like prospecting too much to be bothered with people.
Gold won't buy your life back if you lost it, Joshua.
I ain't afraid to die, young man. When the good Lord's ready to call me home, I'm ready.
Well, that's good, but think of the things in life that you've missed, that every human being enjoys. You've got enough money from your last strike to tide you over for the rest of your life.
That's right.
Why, sure, Josh. You and me could go hunting and fishing together. We could set a spell over in Mark's store and talk with the boys of an evening.
Now you got me thinking that I might like staying in town.
Well, why not give it a try for a while?
Well, I might, but I ain't got no place to stay.
Why, you old walrus, you can stay at my place just as long as you please. Ain't nothing fancy, but it's homey.
Thanks, Stumpy. I think I'll take you up on that and try civilized life for a while.
Then you're definitely going to give up prospecting for gold in the desert, Joshua?
In the desert?
Well, yes.
Well, Bill, you know there's gold in more places than the desert.
Oh, sure. Well, Josh, it's come down to this, then. Are you going to give up prospecting, or aren't you?
Yep, I am going to give it up. From now on, I'm going to enjoy life.
Josh, put it there. You've made a good decision. Fellas, we'll have to get packed as fast as we can. Tom says the Scotch pine up at the North Forks have been hit by a strange new disease. They're wasting away.
That beautiful stand, worth much money.
That's right. We can't afford to lose either the beauty or the money. Ralph, you finish packing the burros. I'm going back to the office and get the portable lamp. We've got to make a thorough study of this new disease.
Okay, burros will be ready by the time you get back.
Hey, Grey Wolf, give me a hand with this diamond hitch, will you?
Oh, sure thing.
Hey, somebody's coming in a big hurry.
Oh, plenty quick. Hey, it's Stumpy.
Oh, there! What's wrong, Stumpy? Why all the hurry? I rode over to tell you about Josh. He ain't been home for 2 days. Well, why didn't you tell us sooner, old-timer? Well, I didn't think much about it, Bill. The first night, he could have stayed at Mark Dagger's house, but when he didn't come home last night, I begun to get worried.
Do you think he's gone back on his promise, Bill?
I don't know, Ralph. Did he give you any reason to believe he might go back out in the desert, Stumpy? You can't say he did, sonny. Nope, nary a hint.
What we do now, Bill?
Well, we're going out on the trail anyway. Let's stop at Mark's store and find out if Joshua bought supplies. If he did, the Scotch Pine will have to wait until we find him. He's certainly in no condition to make a prospecting trip.
I'm sorry I can't help you, Bill. Old Joshua didn't buy supplies for me, nor has he been staying here.
You wouldn't be covering up for the old desert rat because he broke his promise to me, would you, Mark?
Of course I wouldn't. It might cost Joshua his life if it did. I agree with you and the doc. Joshua's prospecting days are over. His heart being what it is.
Maybe he got his supplies from some other store in town, Bill.
Yes, Ralph, he could easily have done that. Let's spread out and ask all the stores if they've seen the old gent. Report back here in 2 hours.
No, I haven't seen Joshua Webb, Stumpy. Sorry.
Hey, Joshua didn't buy supplies for me, Bill.
Joshua ain't been in my store for a coon's age, Ralph.
Grey Wolf, he hasn't been near here for 6 months.
Yes, Joshua was here, Bill. He bought himself some grub in the burrow. Also some prospecting tools. He was muttering something about he couldn't sit around and do nothing all the time.
And that's what I was afraid of. Thanks, Barry. Come on, boys. We're going after Joshua. You mean out on the desert this time of year? Stumpy, you don't mean that. We're going to get Joshua before the desert gets him. You understand, I'm not holding back, but with 100 miles of hot sand out there, it's going to be mighty rugged.
I bet you could fry a steak in my saddle horn. Oh, this is terrible. How could Josh stand this year in and year out?
I don't know, Ralph. I think you have to be made of rubber and rawhide. Well, let's rest a minute, fellas. Whoa, Storm. Whoa, boy. Thank the Lord, it's only a couple of more hours until sundown. You better wet our horses and burros' mouths, huh?
Good. Me take water bag and help Ralph.
Yeah, hold this pan, will you, Grey Wolf?
Now, don't you fellas take any more than that, either. It's better to drink more water at night to catch up on the dehydration that takes place during the day.
How do these old desert rats stand this heat? I don't even care to keep my eyes open. It's so hot.
120 degrees. No wonder Josh looked like prune.
Okay, let's push on, fellas. A high wind could come up and wipe out Joshua's trail. Let's follow it while we can. Sand in my teeth, sand in my ears, sand in my eyes, and sand in my food and water. Why didn't Josh stay home instead of coming out here like an old fool?
What's the use of complaining, Stumpy? Got a job to do. Let's do it. I'm sure glad for sundown, though. After 3 days in this heat, it starts to wear on you.
Not only on us, Ralph, but on the animals, too. Better all get some sleep. I want to push on as soon as the moon comes up. Let's shake a leg, fellas. We want to gain time before it gets too hot. Hey, that's a rattlesnake. Watch the horses and burros. I'll get him.
Hold on, boy.
Ralph, those water bottles. Watch them.
Get that snake before we lose horses.
Bill, horses have kicked the water bottles in.
Oh, no.
How many bags were damaged, Ralph?
All of them.
And the only water we have is what's in our canteens?
That's right.
That's very bad.
Yeah. Well, let's get the horses and burros and be on our way. Here, Storm.
You guess the best thing to do is go ahead, Bill?
Yes, Grey Wolf. There must be water somewhere close to Joshua's prospecting grounds.
Yeah, but we don't know where that is.
I'm beginning to have a notion as to the place. But we'll keep following the trail. Right now, it'd be more dangerous to go back than to go on.
How far we must go to trail, Joshua? You must stop someplace and dig.
Keep following the trail, Grey Wolf.
Bill, can't we have just a little water for ourselves?
Ralph, use your head. There's only a quarter of a canteen left. You must keep that for the horses. Even the burros will have to wait.
Far we go, Bill. Maybe we follow wrong trail.
I don't figure Josh would come all this way.
Stumpy, let me tell you something. Remember when Josh told me all the gold wasn't in the desert?
Huh? Yes.
I remember.
To me, that means only one place. Lonesome Mountain. There's water there. There's gotta be.
And what if you're wrong, Bill?
It'll be my last mistake. There's the mountain up ahead, fellas. There's a piece of Joshua's gear, fellas. We're on the right track.
Yes, but how much farther? I can't go on.
You've got to, Ralph. One more day should do it. We'll leave the burros here, all our gear. Travel as light as possible. Let's go while we can. I can't...
Don't talk, Bill. We go on, like you say. Nobody talk. Just ride until the horses drop, and then walk, and then crawl.
They can always die when they can't do nothing else. Water! The horses smell water!
Luxury. Oh, I could stand there all day and pour this cool water over my head.
And ruin your $10 shirt?
I not care. It's worth my life.
Fellas, look over by that flat rock. There's a man's hand. Poor Josh. With water 100 feet away, he lay down and died.
Here is note and some gold nuggets.
What's he say, Bill?
Well, he says, Bill Jefferson, I know you were following. My heart gave out. All the gold in the world wouldn't buy me water when I needed it. Not sorry dying this way. Bury me on Lonesome. That's as far as he got.
Well, he went just the way he wanted to go. Out on the desert and the mountains, looking for gold.
Ralph, Grey Wolf, get the burros and the gear. When you get back, we'll have a little service for Joshua Webb. Just before we bury him.
Do you think it was the gold fever made Josh break his promise?
Nope, I don't. I've got a notion Joshua knew his time was near, and all he wanted to do was go across the desert and up into Lonesome Mountain to meet the Lord.
Well, I guess that's the story, boys and girls. The story of Joshua Webb, Desert Rat, who just wouldn't stay where he was put. Well, we'll see you next week for more adventure with
Ranger!